The world is an amazing place, and Australia is no exception. Just take a look around and you'll see a beautiful combination of ideas, innovation and progress turned into action. And it's enough to leave any one of us in sheer awe.
Spray on skin is actually taking skin cells from a normal site. We harvest those skin cells and they would use those to spray on to the wound.
This is RaceCam, a device perfected by technicians at the Sydney TV station Channel 7, a lightweight, remote-controlled camera system.
And we set out to see if we could detect exploding mini black holes. And the technology ultimately proved to be one of the important keys to the high data rate wireless.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Frazier. I'm the inventor of the GBO lens technology, which is deep focus and, in a way, very revolutionary compared to every other lens technology out there.
How did we do all this? The truth is, if you sat down and tried to imagine all the factors needed to bring our civilization to the point where it is today, your brain will hurt. But there is one crucial factor that lies at the heart of every single one of these great feats of human endeavour. And that's our ability to learn, formalised through education. So, there's no doubt that the learning environment has shaped our real-world experience and progress, but how? Well, we have to do a little bit of Australian history and go back to our first attempt at formalising student learning, and that was the Education Act of 1872. It was the first document to introduce free, compulsory and secular education for everybody. Although most of this secular learning took place in a church. The purpose of the Act, though, was clear. It wanted all children to be able to read, write and perform basic arithmetic, and it proposed structure. Single classrooms with regimented rows of teacher-facing students bowing down to the gatekeepers of knowledge. So the master-student relationship left no real room for other ways of teaching, and didn't really consider student engagement at all. It just sort of filled the head of the student with information. Rote, 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 repeat. Rote, 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 repeat. We were well on our way though, and after World War I, the learning environment was showing signs of its own development. Introducing things like humanities and the creative arts, nature studies and physical labour all began to creep in at this time. Probably because of the booming industrialisation of that time. And in 1928, VET was born, with the Apprenticeship Act requiring compulsory schooling for trades, a formal way to recognise the connection of learning to real-world experiences. The 60s brought with it a new era, with ideas of progressivism and the experiential mode of learning, linking teachers' own pedagogical ideas with the whole student learning process. And it made for better ways to assess students, not because of the assessment practices of the past, but in spite of them. And by 1973's Carmel Report, we were talking about things like diversity, multiculturalism, and celebrating differences, by which we were helping the student organise ideas and engaging them in a dialogue to refine this learning process through reflection. So schools then, you could say, were starting to become a bit more open to including the student and, wait for it, including the parents. But hang on, don't get too excited, because in the 80s, education, along with everything else, fell victim to forms of neoliberalism and capitalistic economical pressure, and received much criticism for the lack of discipline, the lack of structure, and that brought standardisation to the forefront of the whole curriculum argument, in order to, well, keep order. But if, like me, you went to school in the 90s, there's a fair to good chance you felt disengaged at school and might have kind of rebelled a bit against a system that you didn't seem to fit into. And for some, that's all she wrote. But don't lose hope too quick. The noughties came along and hinted a hope of divergency. Yep, there's more than one correct answer, and it's not always in the back of the book. And in 2008, the Melbourne Declaration of Educational Goals for Young Australians had goals like equity and excellence, promoting a successful learner, a confident and creative individual, an active and informed citizen. And in 2011, we gave a Gonski review that backed up these ideas with money, and lots of it, $5 billion to be exact, and was aiming to even the playing field so students' success wasn't just dependent on where they lived, whether they were rich or poor, Aborigines or immigrants, but on their ability alone. But unfortunately, the Gonski is, well... Why? And now we pine for pine? I doubt it. But let's not play to the stereotypes, or form a view solely from the mainstream media, who love stereotypes.
Welcome back as we ask the question, do today's children and teenagers have the worst manners of any generation that has come before them? And the children of today don't mind their manners.
They're out to party all night.
They feel they've got to be intoxicated.
There are concerns out-of-control schoolies are posting inappropriate photos of their celebrations on social media sites.
So, if you think you're out of touch with the youth, stop watching the news and remember your own adolescence. Because alienating young people is kind of like borrowing money to pay off a loan. Gets you absolutely nowhere in the long run. So I say, dare them to dare. Help them risk the risk and watch them take flight. Because the future's coming and it's new, exciting, and no doubt filled with digital media technology. Might seem a little scary and risky, but well worth it. Just keep in mind that this whole technology is here to help, not to replace face-to-face human interaction. It can essentially free up the class time, so it's more effective. You watch a lecture at home or on the bus or on a train and engage in dialogue to further your understanding in class the next day. See, some old school traditions are great and they'll always be great, but if you apply current innovation and technology to them, they become amazing. So that gives us a bit of background of Australia's learning environment and education, but a crucial question still remains. If we know more now about how we learn than we ever have before, why can't we organise our society in a way that's best suited to teach our next generations how to learn, so that we might sustain our human existence for as long as we can? Because yes, we've definitely come a very long way, but we have much farther to go.